Hello, James Bond Aficionado here, back with another debriefing. Today we have someone you may have seen dating back to the James Bond Lifestyle video podcast, or with head of section being James Bond. Let's welcome, nonetheless, David Zaritsky of the Bond Experience. David, how are you doing today?
I am doing fantastic. The sun is shining. I'm wearing a Diamonds Are Forever terry cloth. It's beautiful out. And I got a chance to spend a little time with you, Brian. So today's perfect.
Well, we all know Joe would appreciate that diamonds outfit the most. So I hope you have the sandals on with it, to be frankly honest.
You know, I've got to tell you, not that you want to see from the waist down, but
No,
I was just on the deck taking a business call, because we're stay at home. You can do that. You can work from a deck position. I did have sandals. Yeah,
I think Joe will be impressed.
He will be. That's my job in life, is to impress Joe.
So, David, let's go back to the earlier days
Please.
of when did you first get introduced to Bond, and tell me a little bit more about that, if you will, please.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the beginning of the story is like a lot of people's story. My father was really into James Bond, loved James Bond. And I had a father who was a very successful businessman, but he was also, because of that success, he wasn't the type of guy to really go out in the backyard and play ball with me. It's just not how he was wired. It wasn't a bad thing. It's just not how he was wired. But whenever there was a Bond movie on TV, he would always get me involved. But my very first moment of connecting with Bond was The Spy Who Loved Me. And it was Atlantic City. It was pouring out. My parents didn't want to take us to the beach. We went to a movie, and I remember sharks and people with steel teeth and pyramids and sand. And I was super young. And I remember even getting the Corgi car afterwards. So it was not to use a vernacular, it was an experience. It was a whole day long of celebrating Bond and going to the movies in Atlantic City. And it just started this thing where I was kind of confused afterwards. But instead of like my dad letting me be confused, every opportunity that there was a Bond movie on TV, he would invite me to watch it so I could get to know Bond. So it started at a very early age.
So you do, like you say, you really do have that psychologist dream of it being there. And I can see it now, and especially with your dad, and especially you probably look back because your dad's probably passed on.
He did. Yeah, he was only 62 years old when he passed away. So I'm sure this is all like some sort of psychiatry couch attempt to connect with my dad again.
Well, that's good, though. At least you have that.
Yes,
there.
exactly.
So and, that's the one thing I do have with my dad as well. Unfortunately, my dad has Parkinson's and dementia. But, I remember starting off, of course, with the GoldenEye N64, and then starting off with the movies came after that. It was Thunderball, not Diamonds, but why am I saying Diamonds? I think it's because you're wearing the shirt. Diamonds, Tomorrow Never Dies, The World Is Not Enough. We would always go see the first one, that came out in the theater after that.
What was the last Bond movie you saw with your dad? Did you see Spectre with him?
Yeah, we saw Spectre together because he was still in good shape. So
those are special moments, man. You've got to embrace those and remember those and connect with those all the time.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
So, what did you want to be growing up, and has Bond shaped any of your decisions? And what compelled you to start collecting James Bond props and other memorabilia from the series?
There's like 3 questions in there, but I'll take them one at a time.
Okay.
All right. So when I was very young, I wanted to be Superman. I would literally run up the steps of my house, 2-story house, and I would run up the steps. And I thought one day if I ran fast enough with my arms outstretched, I would just start hovering and flying. And I kid you not. And I was 33 years old. No, I was really young. And I loved Superman. I loved the Christopher Reeve movies. And I had this fantasy of one day superpowers would be bequeathed to me. But as I got older and I realized gravity's a real son of a bitch, I first thought I wanted to be an attorney, and then I wanted to do something with business. And then I realized probably latter part of high school, I wanted to go into marketing. I didn't know quite what marketing was, but I knew that I wanted to do it. And then as I started to research it in college, I really wanted to go into marketing. And I realized the reason I wanted to go into marketing, and I actually have never talked about this, so good question, was as a child, those jingles, those commercials on TV, those songs, those visuals that would hit me as I watched cartoons, they seared like a hot brand in my brain. I can sing them all today. And I realized that nostalgia and marketing and these jingles and commercials have such an incredible impact on us, the moving image and music. And I think that's why my love of movies came from that, adopting movies as these movie images that sear themselves when they're really good and special into your brain. James Bond was an evolution, though. It wasn't always James Bond. I loved, as a child, Star Wars. And I went from like Superman to Star Wars, rode Star Wars hard until my early 30s, where I did fan films and collect props and did cosplay and shows and the whole nine yards. And then one day I was collecting screen use memorabilia, and I started collecting screen use props from James Bond, and I just got hooked from there, and I have never looked back since.
That's just mind blowing, and it's crazy to think that's how it all came down, to be honest. And yeah, you look at it this way, advertising is still huge to this day. And
it is.
Unfortunately, with if we want to compare it to James Bond, the trailers don't really compare to what they used to be.
They're different, aren't they?
They are.
There's a lot of big Brahms and stuff like that. I do like the ones today, but I think there is something missing about the narrator talking, Bond is back and he's better than ever with beauties and sunshine. And, it's just different.
Oh, absolutely. And that's what I was just about to go, because they were such punch to those earlier ones. Now it's straight to the point narrative from the actors. And I don't know. It just doesn't stand out to me like they used to.
How old are you?
I'm 31.
See, I love hearing a 31-year-old saying that, because I think when people my age, I'm 52, say it, we sound a little nostalgic, curmudgeon-y, oh, the trailers nowadays, bang, bang, bang my cane, get off my mountain. But when a 31-year-old says it, I like to hear that, because I think we connect on the same things that we like.
Oh, absolutely. And, and that's where Calvin and I related on a lot of things. It was wait, what? It's yeah, okay. Yeah,
Calvin is another one who's 30 going on 62.
Yeah, right.
He's an old soul like you are.
So do you remember the very first thing that you collected from James Bond?
Well, it was a Corgi.
Okay.
It was the Corgi DB5 vehicle. I think I lost the little guy that flies out within the first week. I mean, I don't remember exactly, but it was lost quickly. And I do remember my mom or dad writing to the company and getting a spare one, and they sent 3. But it was definitely the cars and the vehicles. Okay. As an older gentleman, it was all of the sartorial things. And I think that's what snowballed as far as the clothing and fashion.
So of course, I've been following your content for years now. It's been 7 years. Do you still contact with Ed Maggiani at all? And does he still help you with a lot of the props?
Yeah. Yes. I actually haven't seen Ed in a little bit, which bad on me. I used to drive down to him. He's driving distance from me, and he was and is my prop guru. He really brought me at a very young age into the world of prop collecting and gadgets. And, Ed he's not just the Q branch of the entire world as far as prop gadgets and replicas. He is probably the sweetest, nicest guy, biggest heart, not a mean bone in his body, which helped me as a young person set a pattern for what the Bond community can be. And I really believe that some people in the Bond community believe it's about, very few, poking holes at things. Mm-hmm. Okay, that's fine. They have good hearts around it. But then the overwhelming majority are like Ed Maggiani, and he taught me early on, celebrate things, get excited about it, be positive about things, and you'll lift everybody up. So he was and is an incredible role model for me.
Yeah, because I remember, like I said, dating back to your earlier videos, it's just so crazy seeing him all featured. And then, of course, when you guys were at Mazicon, if I remember correctly.
Amazicon and Chiller.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Lana Wood.
yeah. It's crazy to see that, you guys go back that far, and then it's like recently, it's like I wonder if he's been still doing props for David at all, and you don't really see him featured that much in your videos, so that's the reason why I thought I'd ask.
Every now and then, I think he got me most of my props that I have downstairs, so I'll call him out. But his collection, his prop collection, dwarfs mine, and it's not size. Size matters not. But I do think that when you look at my collection, it's curated in a way that there's a lot of fashion and sartorial moments, and then you'll have props smattered about. His is just a prop explosion. It's great.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So, has there been any item that your wife Danielle has, or any family member has made you return or sell? Because there was apparently this guy on AJB that said the Sperry boat shoes were just kind of a little too ugly, and his wife turned around and told him, "You need to sell them."
Okay, I've got two stories. So the first one answers your question. There hasn't been anything from a clothing standpoint or collectible standpoint that Danielle was like, "Oh, come on, that you can't have that in our house." Whenever I talked about big things, like I wanted to get the Skidoo from The Spy Who Loved Me, she's like, "Why are you going to have that? It's going to smell like gasoline. You're going to put it in the center of the room. It's just going to sit there." And I'm like, "No, we'll make it out in a bench." And she was right. Why get that stupid thing? But I will tell you, not James Bond, but when I used to collect prop memorabilia in general, when I collected screen used, I don't know if you ever saw the movie, I think it was 1997 with Wesley Snipes called Blade. It was a Marvel movie.
No, I remember it.
Yeah.
Really well, actually.
There was this baby in the beginning that was supposed to be Blade. It was, and the prop was made out of rubber. Well, I was in correspondent with the FX guy, and he sent me the baby Blade, which was like covered in like, baby stuff. And we got it in, and my wife was just like, no, you cannot display that on a shelf. No. So, the store took the baby.
I thought you had the Kanega head that was inflated at one time, and I thought she told you to do something with that as well.
There's a possibility.
Because like I said, I've been following you for quite a while, and I know what goes on a lot.
Well, the Mr. Big Head, the Kananga head, I think it was something that was going to be an acquisition. It was offered to me because of the investment. I actually do talk to Danielle about some of the major investment ones. And that was one where it was like, it's just so disturbing. And listen, the reality is that Danielle does go down into the collection every now and then. There's other parts of our house that are down there besides Crazy Town. So I try to be respectful of that.
Yeah. That's what matters the most, I should say. And you got to have that connection with husband and wife, and you got to be able to compromise on both halves, and especially when it becomes part of the income in the family.
You got hobby and you got life.
Yeah.
And that's
you kind of have to try to balance them both out.
Well, and here's the thing. I don't know if they should ever be balanced out. Hobby should always be way below life. I mean, so, if Danielle said to me one day, and I'll be frank with you, she never would, because she supports the hobby. But if she ever said, "Hey, this is getting too much," or "I've observed this," I would definitely listen for sure.
Oh, absolutely. And that's that what makes life great. Okay, so out of everything in your collection, let's go to that. Out of everything in your collection, please do not say your Aston Martin.
Okay.
What grabs at you at the most, and what is your most favorite?
I would say there's two favorites, but I'll try to give you the most favorite. So the Armani jacket from Casino Royale, which I know you followed me, so I talked about. I love it. It fits me, so I can kind of connect with it. It's such a great moment in a great film, in my favorite film actually, But my favorite is usually just items that friends have gotten me for sentimental reasons, like, 50th birthdays and things like that. Those are the ones that just really resonate with me that sometimes I'll take business calls and I'll just walk and talk when I'm on a meeting call. And sometimes I'll just take a meeting call downstairs so I can just view the entire collection. And as I go by the different pieces, I really tend to hover and stare at the ones that friends acquired for me.
I think that's what matters the most as well. It's that sentimental connection, right?
Yes, exactly.
And like the shaving kit that you received for your birthday.
That's a big one. That's my top one. Yeah.
So, still staying on your collection.
Sure.
You have a very large collection, enough to be considered a mini museum.
Museum.
Are there any other people's collections that you admire?
Oh, so many. The Ian Fleming Foundation's collection, Doug's collection, is absolutely amazing. Alan Stevenson's collection is amazing. I mean, there are so many different collections that I think I can appreciate because they're so different. Toys of Bond, for example, that's one of the social media guys. He has an incredible toy collection. I admire toy collections too with Bond because they're so different than usually what I collect. Some people collect the promotional stuff, but yeah, those are kind of the top ones that I really admire. Desert Museum, Bond in Motion, those collections, they're just unbelievable.
I would have to probably say a lot of does. I agree. They really do stand out. All right, this is definitely off the collection topic.
Okay.
Now. So let's jump back. I did some research on this. Let's jump back to January 20th, 2013. I'm going to show a brief clip when I edit this all up. It was your first YouTube video. You were known as the James Bond Lifestyle Video Podcast. Later on, you decided to branch off and brand the Bond experience that we all know today. What inspired you to go that direction and start your own channel?
Oh, okay. So, all right. So you just showed not my very first video, but the first video as the Bond experience?
No, I'll be showing here shortly. The one that you started. Yeah, pretty much. I'll show a little bit of both. How about that?
Okay. No problem. Yeah, so there was a couple of things. First of all, when I was doing videos for Bond Lifestyle, I did a few articles, and then I really liked the medium of video. I've said this before in other places. I'm a lazy writer. I can write, but I don't like to write. It's honestly very boring to me. But I love to do videos, and I'm a little bit of a mover. Like I move when I talk, so it just happened to work. And I love the showmanship of a video. So I was doing things for Bond Lifestyle, and what happened was I think it became its own entity. Like Remmert had built this incredible, and still has, the most incredible hub and source for James Bond, collecting or otherwise, quite frankly, information, fashion. I think he is the end all be all. But we both agreed that, I was becoming kind of my own entity. It's almost like, if two people are trying to, share a body, it's like, well, you know what? You should have a body too. Bodies are great. So he encouraged me. And because of that, I worked and I think it was April of blah, blah, blah. I had a launch, and the launch was really to start the Bond experience. And it was a way also to really not have any constraints like you, right? I mean, you started something, you don't have a boss, you don't have partners, you are Brian, right? And, James Bond Aficionado is Brian and vice versa. And I really wanted that autonomy, that if I felt that creative ebb in the middle of the night, I could go down a video and post it immediately. There is no board of directors. There's no filter. You just go. And I've loved it ever since.
Spot on. I think you hit that one spot on. And it's especially, you guys probably still contacted it to each other to this day, saying it's like, wow, I can't believe it. It's like you've broken off and you became this person that it's like, I can't believe it. It's like, oh my gosh.
Well,
It's
and
like you've gone from being with me to, of course, contacting with companies like Tom Ford. The list goes on that. So,
well, I always encourage people because if I hadn't lived that, I wouldn't encourage people to do the same thing. For example, Harris Thomas used to be an individual that would just come along to some of our parties, come to my house events, and he always kept talking about, wow, I really like, what you guys do. And I'm like, well, do on your own. What do you love? What's your vision? What's your burning passion that you feel like you could share? What do you bring to the table? And then now he's, dressing like Bond. And the same thing with, Blair Ballard. Blair was a correspondent for many of my videos, and now, he feels that earn, that zeal to do something on his own. I'm like, dude, I'll work with you on a vision statement and what you want to do and bring it to the table, bring something unique, right? Own that little corner of Bond that only you can own and go for it. What's stopping anyone from doing it?
no, and it shouldn't stop anybody. You should just go out there and do it. And I think that's what a lot of people need to realize. You can't be afraid of doing something that you enjoy or something that you're passionate about. And that's what I tell Joe all the time. If it wasn't for you or him or Calvin, I'd still probably be hiding behind this screen saying, hey, I'm just going to be like, I'm hanging out and following.
Well, I'm
But
glad
no,
you came outside.
no, I'm like, I gotta do this. I enjoy it too much, and I've learned with the interviews, just the presence with all you guys, and unfortunately, we're stuck with COVID now. It's one of those things. Maybe once we get back to returning to form, I should say, you'll host events. You'll have maybe Chris and I out there, and it's like, okay, we're coming.
Absolutely. You guys are definitely going to be invited. And that's the other thing about I mean, this is just a general comment. I think people think some people, oh, they're inviting these people to the events or they're only doing events on this. Nobody owns events. Anybody can start an event. You need one person to start an event. You don't need 10,000 people. And what I like what you did, and by the way, I'm going to give you a huge compliment. I've been watching you since your very first video, and you have gotten so good in the art of the interview because you used to, if you watch your first two videos, and I hope you appreciate this because a compliment is coming, you would read a question, the person would answer it, and then you would jump to the next question. You do what a true professional interviewer does, which is you ask a question, you listen. You don't think about the next question. You listen to the answer, and then you react to the answer. You have a conversation around the answer. Then you go to the next question. You become so good at it.
No, and I thank you enough for that, and it means a lot because you are right. I do catch myself going back to my earlier videos now, and I'm like, wait, did I really just do that? Oh, damn. It's like I did not want to do that from the get-go. And it's like, I think it was because I was so nervous, and the fact that, I think, talking with, like I said, you now, Joe, Calvin, the list goes on. It's like, you know what? This is getting easier as time goes by, and you start to become, and you build those friendships with people over time goes on.
Yeah.
Okay. I truly see the art of interviewing now. So, and
Well, the biggest thing for you, it's one word. I could sum it up in one word, is confidence. Because people have said, you are entertaining, I enjoy you, what you're doing is important to me. You now have the confidence to say, I know what I'm doing. That's everything. And people feel that.
yeah, and Chris and I talk almost every day. If it wasn't for Chris, or even Jocelyn, I should say, it's like I probably wouldn't be in this position. Like, they've helped me out so much as well. I gotta thank them as well. And it's like I have Jocelyn proofread all my scripts before I yeah.
Nice. You got your own posse. I like that.
I do. So it's like, what am I going to do without her if I decide to be like, oh no. But yeah, I agree. They've helped my confidence. You guys have helped my confidence. So Thank you so much, David.
Well deserved.
And it's like, yeah, of course, I told Joe, and when I was sitting down for his channel doing an interview with him, I always result back to you guys for information. It doesn't matter on what it is. It's always something that I date back to.
Well, definitely go off of Joe.
Yeah, it's
Don't
like
go off of me.
It's like
I
the
always
old
have
saying. Yeah.
misinformation.
Well, it's like the old saying, always go back to Fleming.
Oh, yeah.
So that's why I turn back to like you guys for, oh hey, if I need more tips on something, I can result back to you guys. So once again, Joe,
our phones are only marginally blocked.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So did you think at that time when you first started the Bond experience and becoming one of the leading Bond presences on YouTube, you'd be interacting with companies like Tom Ford, NPO, Sophie Harley, and most recently Massimo Alba?
No. I still consider myself extremely fortunate, for a couple of reasons. First of all, these are busy companies, and we're fans. And I'm no higher level of a fan than anybody in the Bond community. I think what it is that these companies first start out by understanding that, YouTube, for example, can be a channel to connect with others. But ultimately what happens is when you start working in a familiar fashion with these companies, and I don't mean working in the vocational sense, but working with hearing what their ideas are, their visions, what their pains are. When they come to people like us for ideas, you actually start to build a friendship. So I can actually call many of these companies and the people that inhabit them friends. I mean, we break bread together, we have drinks together. They commiserate with me. I commiserate with them. We're on regular. A lot of the time people don't realize this, but many of the companies I've connected with over the years will send emails back and forth about the weather or about COVID or about somebody's birthday. And so just like anybody that you connect with over many years, you develop a relationship. Now, back to your question, could I thought that I would develop those type of relationships where it's not this cold entity of a company after all these years? Never. And I'm always humbled and honored whenever I meet and connect with a new company, truly.
That's awesome. So what are some companies you'd like to connect with next on your list that you think would be great brands to be in the future films?
Ones that are not Bond brands now. This is going to be a duh statement, but I like Bond to have anything connected with the British sense, the British aspect of fashion, accessories. I know Swain Adney Briggs has been there from Russia with Love. I'd love them to go back to those type of things. But I truly do like the British sartorial pomp and circumstance. So, I could do like a long list, but I think the more unique ones would probably be, oh gosh, even like little accessories. Like there's wallet companies out there that I think are really intriguing that are kind of high tech, but they have this old fashioned look to them. I think those would be great. I don't know. The list is kind of nebulous to me right now. I will tell you this. It's amazing when a Bond movie kicks off, like No Time to Die, for example, and we start to do research. I think some people think there's a flood of emails to me from brands saying like, hey, can you look at, this shirt? Can we review this shirt? It really does take investigation. And many times the Bond investigators, those dark detectives that we know who find these things, which isn't me really, they are the ones to tell the brands, guess what? You're in the movie. And 50% of the time they're like, what? I'm in a James Bond movie. So it is amazing about kind of the overall relationship there.
Oh, that's crazy.
It's crazy.
It is. And it's like, wait, did I really just try that on, or did I just really try this on?
Yeah.
And you probably had that. It's like, wait, am I really wearing the actual Tom Ford suit or well,
It
you
it it
don't.
it still gets me excited too. I mean, that's the other thing is, if you go back all those years when I first started, even with Bond Lifestyle, and I started talking about the frugal Bond, but then I would get like the correct screen accurate piece. Today, I mean, literally, as of today, when I get something in, I still get that same rush of wow and excitement. But the difference is the brands, because they know my channel very well now, or if they get to know me, they research my channel. They know that I'm weighing them on a certain scale, like customer service,
Mhm.
packaging, how it's made, how does it feel, what's the value, what's the connection in the movie, and I could tell that the brands they kind of shape themselves accordingly, which is not a bad thing for them to do.
Yeah, and I noticed that with your review on the Massimo Alba suit. It's you were definitely very impressed on everything that he did, and I would have to agree. It's one of those suits that it might not stand out to a lot of people, but the thing is, it has its unique factor.
It does, and it surprised me because there's a lot of times I'll see something and I'll be like meh, and then all of a sudden you'll get it and you're like yeah.
I was just about to do that same exact expression. So,
Great minds think alike.
right, exactly. With the Bond community growing each day, who are some of the people that stand and catch your eye?
Oh my gosh. Well, from a podcast standpoint, some new people on the block, so to speak. I love Quantum of History.
Mhm.
He's great. Donnie is hysterical. He's pithy. Um, he's unfiltered, which I think we kind of need more of every now and then. But I do love that one Bond guy, Chris's page, because
Mhm.
he's really following in the footsteps of the sartorial Bond, doing the thrifting Bond and things like that, which is kind of like his version of frugal Bond moments I used to do. So I feel like he's taken up the mantle on that, which is great. From a podcast standpoint, another James Bond podcast, which is a couple, Corey and Danielle, that are hysterical. They review the Bond movies. One is a Bond fan, one isn't. I love that he said, she said moments that they create. From an Instagram standpoint, Fleming Never Dies has some of the most incredible pictures, and he lives in China, and he just brings these things to bear. Q Branch, I think it's Q Branch Media, is it? Oh, I hope I'm not going to get it wrong. There's a couple Instagrammers that I'm just like, I constantly want them to post more. And then, of course, just to be totally transparent, and I call them friends, there's the usual suspects. I mean, being James Bond puts something out, I always watch it over coffee in the morning. It's my little treat. Dressing like Bond Harris's Instagram. I love when he has the location stuff. James Bond Complex, 00 Files, James Bond Television on Facebook. I mean, I could go on for 15 minutes. There's so many to consume.
Oh, absolutely. And that's the thing is that this community keeps on growing each day, and it's like, how do you keep up? And you probably get that reaction from people. It's like, well, you follow this person, but you don't follow me. Because I know I get a lot of DMs
Hmm.
on that. And then it's like, well, it's because I'm waiting for you to establish yourself. And then when you start establishing yourself, then we can talk about potential following. Like, and I always tell them also, there's some people that I follow that have been following me since day one.
Hmm.
That's my way of showing, hey, you know what? You're showing, you've showed commitment since day one. A lot of them may be personal pages, but a lot of them may be Bond community related. Like,
Right.
but then it's like, once I said again, once you establish yourself in the community, once I see some regular post, then we can talk about potential following.
Okay. I mean, can I tell you my philosophy on that?
Yeah.
Um, I don't have a philosophy, meaning I never do follow for a follow. Not that you do that, but it's
No.
just that's ridiculous. And I I'm happy to say I really don't get people reaching out to me going, "Hey, I follow you. Why don't you follow me?" Because it would be, you know, it'd be a lot of there would be too much on my feed. But the additional thing is, I will follow people because usually somebody else that I'm following follows them and shows a picture, and I'm like, wow, that's really fascinating. Like there was a guy who does personal artwork, and I wasn't following them. They would have never come up on my stream or, my photos. Somebody had posted in their stories, and I'm like, that's amazing. Now I'm following them. So I try to do it in a very authentic and organic way, as opposed to either with reciprocity,
Hmm.
which I don't believe in, and or transactional, like something for something. It's like anything in life. I eat what I like to eat. I drink what I like to drink. I follow what I like to follow, and that's kind of it.
So like Tito's
Oh yeah.
and tequila, and yeah.
Tito's is my boy.
uh, Tito's is good vodka though.
Hell yeah.
So I have to agree with you on that. But no, that's some great advice and especially giving it to anybody if you really think about it, and you can take it to everyday life, to be honest.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
I agree. And those for who are starting a podcast or a YouTube channel, what are some advice that you would give them?
Dance like nobody's watching, because chances are nobody's watching. And I'm trying to be funny and pithy, but what I mean by that is I think so many people, when they first start a channel, get so focused on how many subscribers do I have? How many likes do I have? How many views do I have? And, you know, try to go back and see the last time I celebrated how much of anything I've had or done. I don't. And the reason is because it's really important to know that you yourself are creating something and you're putting it out there for the world. Number one, that's an incredibly brave thing. Like most people do not do that. You're
Mm-hmm.
taking a risk and a chance that other people will be entertained. As soon as somebody says, you know what, this guy entertained me, I think he might entertain me again, I'll subscribe to him. You really deserve that. I think anybody that has even one subscriber has done something right. But I often see people saying, you know what, guys, tell your friends to go over and like and subscribe, because if we get to this number, and I'm like, why? Like, what is that? Do the heavens part at that point, or do you get more money at that? Like, what is the reason? And I think you really should enjoy, and this is my biggest advice to people starting out, enjoy this quiet moment while you're building your brand and your audience and your content. I look back very, very fondly on those moments where I could build something and I'm like, I'll try this. Now, I still have that mentality, but I also realize that when I put something out, there could be 10 to 20,000 people that look at it. So I am, in the back of my mind, slightly conscious that that is going to be the purview. I mean, there's going to be 40,000 eyes looking at this particular thing. Right now, you do you. And I still have that philosophy with my brand, but there's something very powerful about just starting out. Enjoy those moments. It's like when you have kids and they're young. Enjoy those moments when they're young, because they grow up to be teenagers. Sorry.
No, you're fine. And I doubt they'll watch this. They'll be like, Dad, why did you just say that?
They won't. I'll block them.
Yeah, there you go. All right, before we hop into some rapid fire questions, David, I'm going to ask you this one little question. I know a group of us have already been talking about it, but it's going to be called Operation Phoenix.
Yep.
Can you share any spoilers that you might have with us right now? And are there going to be potentially any new panelists?
It's too early to tell. All we want to do is what we've always wanted to do, which is bring the Bond community together in a really positive manner. And we want to do it where it's a celebration. It's a celebration of all of us. And we love the idea of doing 007, as in 7 panels. So we'll still do 7 panels. Will they be different? Who knows? Too early to tell. But when we announce it, we'll announce it, and I think we'll all have a great time. And who knows? Maybe you'll join me in that
We don't
wonderful
know about
momentum.
that. We don't know. I might show up. I might not.
Exactly.
That's the big mystery. All right, David.
I'm warmed
Favorite
up.
non.
Hold on.
All right. Yeah. Snap the wrist. Snap the neck. Yeah. Do everything that you feel like. All right. Favorite non-Bond film.
I would say The Empire Strikes Back.
Favorite Bond score.
Tomorrow Never Dies.
That sounded like Almost Live and Let Die for a sec.
It was going to be. That was very good on your part.
Favorite Bond novel.
I would have to say my favorite Bond novel is Ian Fleming's Casino Royale. I really enjoyed it. It's probably the one I've read the most.
Okay. Who's your ideal replacement after Daniel?
Henry Cavill. Or Cavill.
Whatever.
Yeah.
Just if he comes and watches.
If he becomes Bond, I'll learn how to pronounce it, damn it.
Right. I'm just about to say that. It's like, is it Cavill or is it Cavill or what is it? It's like, I agree.
Figure it out.
Right when that press conference comes, right? Favorite director from the Bond franchise?
Martin Campbell.
Why is that?
Because he understands how to direct actors, romance, action, and he understands Bond. And I don't know how his third Bond would be, for example, but his only two, GoldenEye and Casino Royale, he knocked it out of the park.
Favorite director outside of Bond?
I would say I really do like Christopher Nolan. That definitely comes to mind. Yeah, I'll say Christopher Nolan. But he may not be my favorite. I'm rapid firing these.
No, I appreciate that. But, I have to go Scorsese. I'm a huge Marty Scorsese fan.
Scorsese's great. Yeah.
If the Bond experience didn't exist, what do you think you'd be doing?
Playing with my belly button lint, because there's a lot of it. I could make an NPL sweater out of it. Now, that is a really great question. So if I wasn't doing the Bond experience, you know what? I'll say this. I would still be a Bond fan. And if I didn't have a channel, I'd probably just be following one of the other channels and be a big fan and jumping on, the events that other people were doing. Because I'd still think that I would still be a Bond fan. I just wouldn't have that creative outlet that I have today.
By the way, NPL, if you're out there listening, please contact David for some material.
It's part cashmere, part silk, and part belly button lint. So that nobody ever.
Yeah. One location you would like to see the franchise go?
Oh, Pennsylvania. No. Well, I just want to have it in my backyard.
Newtown would be fantastic, right?
You know what? I'll say this, and it's not very unique, but I would like them to go back to New York City.
Uh-huh.
I think it'd be very interesting, the chaos and things like that. But yeah, I think that might be very interesting. I'm thinking of someplace they've never been to before that I've been to. Yeah, I'll say New York City. They've been there before, but.
So then establish 007 in New York then.
Exactly. If
you were stranded on an island, what 3 items from your collection would you have with you? And Jocelyn wrote that question in. Let's thank her for that one.
The first one would be a telephone that I could call somebody because I'm stranded. And then the other 2 would be, so they're in my collection already. Boy, what would be good on a deserted island? Oh, okay. So I would say the knife that Bond uses at the end of the movie from Spectre, because I would want a good sharp knife that wouldn't break, so I could build like sticks to hunt wild boar and to do bungee sticks to like trap tigers. I don't even know what that means. What kind of deserted island is this? And then the third one I would say would be, it would be, believe it or not, it would be probably one of my Oh, the General Madranas oversized shirt from Quantum of Solace. So I could use that as a tent for protection because it's huge.
Much for he was a huge guy, wasn't he?
You have no idea how big this shirt is. Seriously, you could fit like 6 adults in it.
Oh, I take it's down in the museum then.
It is.
Uh,
My
that is
father-in-law
something
has actually worn
I
it.
think that is something I would want to see actually.
When you come, man, you'll see it
All
in all
right.
its glory.
All right. If you could kickstart any cute gadget, what would it be? And this is also from Jocelyn as well.
Without a doubt, it would be the briefcase. Without a doubt. With all its, fun little things in there. Yeah, that's an easy
Yeah,
one.
the AR armor light rifle and the knife. Oh,
The nice, the tear
the
gas,
yeah.
just it's beautiful to look at as well. It's not just a useful gadget. Yeah, I'll take that.
Well, David, thank you very much for taking part of this and finally having the time of sitting down with me.
Well, thank you.
Is there any final words you'd like to say before signing off?
My final word is not about me. It's actually about you. I had said something to you before, and I'll just reiterate it here for people watching. What I love about, what your age group, what your generation is doing is you're bringing something very unique to the table. And what I love that you're doing is not just the interviews and connecting other people in the Bond community, being fearless about that, is you're showing also the entire Bond community how somebody can be very tenacious and resilient. And I use those two words. If I could be so bold, you've gone through some medical procedures, you've gone through operations, you've gone through a lot in your young age. And you could just curl up in a ball. You're right. You have choices. And
Absolutely.
instead, you on a daily basis might be racked with pain and you push through it and you persevere. And I think you are such a great role model for the whole community of the true positive bravery that James Bond shows in an actual person. So thank you for illustrating that.
No, and thank you very much for saying that, David. And if you want to catch the Bond experience on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, go drop David a lovely follow. I think he'll greatly appreciate it.
Love it.
Uh, and at the end of this video, I'm going to put together a little montage of some of his videos at the end of it. So stay tuned and watch. Thank you very much, David. I appreciated this very much.
Thank you, Brian. Take care.
Take care of your